What happens when you combine the most innovative, eccentric and charismatic leaders, disruptors and founders from tech, with the pedigree and history of one of the most established institutions within the City of London? The Searching for Mana podcast will be produced in partnership with the London Stock Exchange. I'm Lloyd Wahed, the host of Searching for Mana. We're going to be interviewing some of the leaders, influencers and disruptors in the tech space, where I'm going to be trying to dig in and find out what's their mana, their superpower, their magic. Mishal, welcome on to Searching for Mana.
Thank you very much. I hope it'll be educational and entertaining.
Well, let's hope it's more entertaining than the Liverpool match that you're off to watch on Boxing Day with Hamza, your son, who is in the interview studio with us. Thank you so much for coming to record the show in person. We are back to in-person shows, which has been a real pleasure to get back to. And you're on a trip on Christmas Eve to London. And last time we met was in Dubai.
That's correct. Sunny
Dubai, which is about 30 degrees a month ago, and it's pretty freezing and miserable in London right now. You have connection to the city?
Other than the fact that I used to come here as a child a lot. In terms of business, not really. I mean, we have a family office here that handles family requirements. Well, a lot of the family like to come to London. It's a home away from home for a lot of the family members.
Yeah.
So we have a person who's in charge of taking care of the family requirements, but in terms of business, not really.
Yeah. So, well, lovely to have you here for Christmas, and Liverpool to have you for the Boxing Day special, and fingers crossed they win. Mishal, if you could just in brief to start with, to explain to the audience and give context, you are the chairman of the Kanoo Group, which has a holdings of business, vast different sectors, logistics, shipping, and many other things. When I was touring the MENA region, we asked around and said who are some of the prominent leaders, but particularly the Searching for Mana show, in partnership with the London Stock Exchange, is looking for cutting-edge technology, innovative thinking, futurist leaders and thought leaders. And your name came up many times. And actually, when I've mentioned your name and said I had the pleasure to meet you, people have all known who you are. So you certainly have a prolific profile. And, the more I get to know you, the more I understand why. If you could explain, the group and your role within it, please.
Sure. The family starts out in 1890. My great-grand uncle. I must say, a stroke of luck that he had no kids, so his nephews, who are my grandparents, my both maternal and paternal grandparents, end up being the beneficiary of what he started. It then goes down to, they don't do much in terms of creating a significant business the way we think of it today. They do a trading company. Then my maternal grandfather moves out and starts his own business, to one point that he was even called the king of cement in the Gulf, because he had complete control over the Gulf cement. But that's a completely different company. His children, my maternal uncles, and his brother, my paternal uncles, there are 3 on one side and 4 on the other side, then form what today is the company that we know of, called Yusuf bin Ahmed Kanoo.
So when would that be? What?
That would be, somewhere in the 20s, 30s, right, along those lines.
Yeah.
Again, it's not formalized. Again, remember, at this point, you're talking about a different era. The whole Gulf was part of the British Raj. It was run by the British Raj. You had British commissioner based in Bahrain, which was the hub to control the whole region, which reported to the British Raj rather than the British government here in the UK. So you had 3 tiers. You had the British running the show politically on top. You had the Indians who were brought in from India to manage everything. And then you had the sheikhs who were the rulers of the country under the auspices of the British Raj being able to run the country on their behalf. So that there was that type of connection between the two. And in those days, you didn't have companies the way we think of it today. You had trading entities, trading enterprises, etc. So that's how the family was business moved into that idea.
Well, sorry, what's the difference? So explain it.
Today, a company would be with legal papers, documentation, structure. You have a legal formation. All of these things would be what you expect from a company today. In those days, it was a piece of paper saying the government says that you are a trading entity.
Okay.
Well, that's about it. So they start forming the company, and they did something unusual. It was headed by my uncle Ahmed at the time, and he did something extremely unusual. Instead of creating a family business run by the family with management under, he created a professional business, a professional company, where the management, and at that time was very strange because we actually had British managers. The idea was if you can't beat them, join them. We had British managers who actually had a say in terms of how the company was run and how the structure was going to be. We had board minutes. We had a company secretary. All the things that today you might consider the norm, but this was not the norm in the 50s. This was an unusual thing.
Where do you think Ahmed had the good intention from?
The family constantly was traveling outside. Education was here in the UK. So they got to see and understand, this is how things are going to be done. This is how we want to get things done.
Okay.
So you have that concept in terms of understanding how to properly professionally manage a business. And one of the reasons why we did become significant business leaders, that we did become, the family became significant in that aspect, was because of this. Was because of the ability to understand, okay, first, Bahrain is small, it's an island. I'm not going to just stay here, I'm going to expand. Fortunately, because I have all my cousins around me, my brothers, they didn't consider themselves, by the way, cousins. They considered themselves cousins. So they were interlaced with one another. So it was, I know I can trust you to go and do this and that, whatever needs to be done, wherever it needs to be done. So geographically, they expanded, and they had the ability to get that done. They also had a professional company so they can have organization and structure in terms of how things are going to be done and what to do. In fact, one of the things which I was surprised by, and happily so, as I came into the business, was to find out that in 1968, we created a family office to invest overseas. In 1968, most countries didn't exist in our part of the world. This is the forward-looking mentality that exists over there. And I was fortunate, and by the way, my uncle Ahmed was not how you'd call easygoing. I think the correct definition, and I don't mean this in a negative way, derogative, not at all, because in order to become who you have to become, you have to be like this. He was a dragon. You'd think twice before going and asking for something. But it also gave me the understanding that things can be done.
And you were working with him when you came to the
I caught the tail end. But even as you're growing up, you're interacting with them. You can see this is the different personalities. I have my father and the 6 other shareholders at the time, and you can see the personalities coming through. Some of them are soft and easygoing, and some of them are very social, and some of them are very strict and to the point.
And if we think about that, if it is cohesive for the long term, then that arguably is a great dynamic, because you have, or you're going to tell me or not, so I'm curious, because one autocrat who has a particular style might work in a particular sector, but it won't work across time over a section of sectors.
Correct.
So this in the family business is useful, or how did you see that?
While, yes, my uncle Ahmed was an autocrat, a dictator in every sense, but he was a benevolent dictator. And that's the thing I quickly understood. A benevolent dictator meaning, two things I understood, sudden notice. He would listen. He wouldn't make you see that he listened to your idea. So he'd give you this completely what you call brush off. But you could see it implemented. And so you quickly realized, he's listening.
Okay.
He's not what you call, he's not into himself, he's not filled with his ego. I'm the captain of the ship, but I'm willing to take in input. I'm willing to take in, you better support your input. So whatever you're telling me, you better support it. And if you support it and it makes sense, I'm listening. I'm not egotistical, the mindset that he had. I'm not egotistical to think I'm only right and nobody else knows the business. He actually listened. That was a part that struck me. So, because in most people's mind thought, anyone who's autocratic, well, they are usually egotistical and think they know how things should be done and nobody else does. Although my uncle was autocratic and was a dictator, but he did listen and he did accept what his either his brothers told him, or if the professional managers told him what he's doing, if he's going in the wrong direction, he's going in the wrong direction, or said this is a new idea you should be going after, he actually listened to them and applied it. So that part was the part that struck me. The second part that struck me, and I caught this towards the end of his life. He had a hunch in his back because of an accident that happened to him when he was younger. It was not easy for him to walk, but in the compound where the family lived, each of the families had his own home. Every day, no exception. Maybe the Friday was the exception. But every day, he would pass by one house after the other, asking them, "Is there anything missing? Do you need anything? What's missing?" Now, a lot of people were afraid to tell him, but he could see this is something you needed. This, if there was a medical emergency, there was no issue of money. A medical emergency, you're going to get it. We're going to get you with the best medical assistance possible. Housing issue, schooling issue, he made sure the family is always going to be protected. And the other thing, whenever he bought something, different trips that he did, he didn't buy for his favorite. Everybody got the same. We were literally a communist mindset, if you ask me. Still, it actually showed me that I cannot like you, but I still have to be fair with you. Mm. And the one theme that was continuous throughout the family is the theme of respect. It is not just within the family. It's respect with the family, with the people we work with the people we talk to, with the people we interact with, including from as low as, if you forgive me for using this expression, the cleaner, all the way up to a CEO. And you didn't treat them any different. In fact, one of the lessons I got from my father, as he said, I used to get invitations from the rulers, and I get invitations from some of my staff who are entry level. And I will go to both. And in fact, I probably will answer the calling of the one who, from the lower social status, more than the highest social status. And why? And it's because the first one, the one who is below me socially, is honoring me, actually wants me to be there. And for him, I am significant to come there. So I'm not going to disappoint them if I can. The other one, on the other hand, I'm one of many. Yeah. And so therefore, as much as I like to go over there, the first category is the one that attracts me the most. And I started to realize, you know what? There is an issue that people don't seem to understand, except for those who are really well appreciated by their own circle, and that is that everybody, no exception, everybody has value. Everybody wants to be respected. Everybody wants to be heard, and everybody wants to be seen. The more you give them that, and I'm not saying it to be just for sake of show. No, because people will realize it very quickly that you actually want to be with the person. You actually want to sit with the person, listen to the person, hear what he or she has to say. The more they will feel a bond with you. And that bond usually doesn't break.
And I think one of the phenomena in business culture, maybe forever, but I'll just speak about the last 20 years I've been in the corporate world or entrepreneurial world, really over the last 15 years or so, seeing this hype around venture capital and what I suppose would be quite get wealthy or powerful or successful quickly. You see in the front of the papers, all of these exceptional stories around somebody who has managed to scale this massive empire, in just a few years. And I think getting to talk to these people over their careers, which is one of the things this show and what I do professionally allows me to do. Not many things that go up incredibly quickly don't come down incredibly quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what's interesting about where we're starting to get with Searching for Mana now, and why it's great to talk with you, and I look forward to talking to more people who maybe they're professors, maybe they're authors, maybe they're individuals who've had companies that have been around for generations. You can pick up on what's good and what's bad and what's in the middle. And I think the mindset that you've just explained makes so much sense if I think about family. I can pick up some of these good cultural points and mentalities from family. But if I think about many businesses that I know or have been involved in, it doesn't really exist because, of course, you choose to go to the room with the individual who can elevate you or the organization because you're thinking quickly, how can I get up this ladder, right? Whereas I've started to be able to sense, because I have a company where I'm not trying to have an event, it's not a family office or a family business, but it's certainly my ambition now with several other individuals where we hope to work with each other forever. Like, we all enjoy what we do. We all enjoy each other's companies, strengths and weaknesses, that we help each other out. And for me, the greatest thing is, spending time with their families over this type of time and making sure that you write a lovely letter to them and show them appreciation, and vice versa. When I get a Fortnum Mason's hamper with some nice things, I mean, great, cool, but it's not about that. I know how special that is that they're doing that for me. And, as the leader of the business, and I'm sure you're having to think this through more than me times 100, I can be in a different country every single week and I can never spend time with any of the guys that I work with, but I have to make sure I don't do that, because otherwise the most important thing is lost, which is, the respect and the foundation of, okay, I take the meeting, I might go up a little bit quicker, but if I keep working on these foundations, then over time it expands and it becomes something much more, I think, full of purpose.
The problem with the youth today,
many problems, but yeah.
in terms of business, not in terms of the social issues, is they're looking for fast gain.
Yeah.
And they're looking for wealth, financial wealth. But the wealth is not financial. Look at historically. Every one of the persons that we think of today, whether it's Warren Buffett, whether it's Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, etc., they're not wealthy. Forgive me, in terms of understanding the concept of wealth. They are rich, as in their bank is huge, but they're not wealthy. Let me explain to you what wealthy is about. Sorry, not to you, but rather to the audience. See, the problem is, when you sit and think about wealth, it's not how much money you have. Wealth is ability to spread that wealth and enjoyment and benefit to the people around you. To elevate yourself, and you elevate others with you, not by buying them. I'm not buying them. I want them to feel the reasons why we like kings and queens and such pomp and ceremony is because we feel part of that wealth. We're not necessarily benefiting from that wealth, but we want to be part of that wealth. If you look at the major family businesses, and or the kings of old, the way they dressed, the way they walked, the way they talked, the way the entourage was around them. It was not, you had, of course, those delightful hanger-ons of dogs' bodies. We were willing to do everything and anything just because they wanted to benefit something. But they were not the main player. The main player was, I'm elevating everybody around me. I wanted everybody to have a good life. I wanted everybody to enjoy the feast. My feast was not just for me sitting and eating the best food myself. It was everybody was part of it. And I brought all with me because that is how I show my wealth. Not, financial wealth, but the wealth of my surrounding, my community, my society. The wealth also comes in from education, in terms of how educated am I. Sadly, what you call it, today, if you ask anyone to be a teacher, they'll be like, I want to avoid that one. But every significant thought, process, philosophy, religion, whatever, the founder had to be a teacher. You couldn't reach that. Even you as a businessman, a business person, a wealthy business person, you're sitting and teaching people. You're spreading that knowledge base. And the idea, now whether you're doing it directly by actually transmitting it purposefully, or indirectly by making sure everybody benefits from it, you are teaching people how to work, how to do, how to act, what to say, what not to say. There are certain things that could be said in public, certain things that could be said in private, should be said in private. The idea of being very open. I want to be open, but hey, there's open and open, i.e., I'm not going to go in the middle of a crowd and shout, person X is a bad person. I mean, what's the purpose of that? Just to prove that I know? That doesn't serve a purpose. If I have access to that person to go and tell him or her, by the way, that was not a good decision. Now, what you do with it, it's up to you. It's your responsibility. My responsibility is to pass this message on to you. What you do with it is up to you. But to have that wealth, to be the wealth part here is your ability to allow people to come in and bring things in and be part of this thing. I know I just talked about this much, but they all play a part in wealth. I want people to enjoy life in as much as possible. Listen, however much we enjoy life, there is so much in life that's going to come and hit us. So whatever we can do to make life easier for people, better for people, give them opportunities. I want others not to suffer. I want others to raise their game. I want others to build better societies, build better communities. And yeah, okay, it might be a competition with me, fine. No, I'm not one of those who advocates, I love competition. Nobody loves competition. We all hate competition. We just say it because it's a good thing to say. But I want this to be part and parcel of the whole society and community because it raises the standard, it raises the benefits for everybody. And that's what real wealth is. I'll give you a case in point. One of the things I actually heard on a YouTube video of His Highness Sheikh Zayed, God rest his soul, the ruler of the UAE. He made a statement. And this is a person who was uneducated formally the way we think of. But his statement was so correct. And I can give you leaders after leaders in different parts of the world who are educated who will not even think about along those lines. And he said, it's a shame on us if in this country, with all this wealth, I have a poor person. I want to bring everybody's livelihood up. I want to bring everybody to have a better life. Whether you are part and parcel, i.e. you're a citizen of the country, or you are someone who's coming here to benefit from this country, I want you all to rise with the tide. We all should benefit from this. This is what real wealth should be. This is what our youth should be targeting, not the target of just making as much money as I can in my pocket.
Yeah.
Opulence is not having expensive car. No. Opulence is having people around you who want you to have the good things. And that only happens because they actually believe that you benefit them, not financially, benefit them through, again, either through education, through knowledge, through a better life, quickly switching. One of the reasons that Ford and Cadbury's, I think, were so successful had less to do with how much money they had. It was the fact that they had these villages or towns where they had their employees in there, and they took care of their employees. They made sure they had, they weren't thrown out, they weren't threatened and frightened that if you don't do something, if you go, there's the door and all your life is gone. No. It was, I want you to have a better life. I want you to have a good education. I want you to have a good, stable, life, so you can have kids and you can take care of them. You can give them a chance to survive and grow. And remember, in those days, if you didn't have livelihood, you literally were dying. This is not a question of, no, I can go find something else. No, you were dying. So I want to raise their standards. I gave you a higher. Ford actually paid people even higher than the market rate. He wanted them to have a better life. It might be egotistical, maybe it might be egotistical, driven as in I want to feel that everybody thinks highly of me. But if that's ego, I don't mind being part of that ego because everybody benefits as well.
Yeah, I think what it comes back to from this broad point is, a few things, but let's say role models. So having heard how you think, if I was in, partnership or group or business with you, then I would appreciate the ethics. And so, I'm not going to talk about the whole macro political economics issues we have with, descending religious belief and how those were, whether it was right or wrong, pillars of role models for people. The change of business role models from perhaps, empires like Ford's, and I don't know enough to kind of rift with you whether it was good or bad, but certainly to your point there, where people felt like this is my company for life, and
Correct.
I'm not going to necessarily get wealthy, but there is a financial security around my family, and I feel purpose being a mechanic in this company, which is 95% what really most people are seeking, I think. So to ask a specific question, you have this amazing, I think, opportunity in the MENA region. And let's say in your business is across different territories there, but in Dubai or wherever you want to talk to, Abu Dhabi, where it really was, to some degrees, a blank canvas.
Yes.
And there's incredible commodity, and there's wealth and resource. And if we look over just the last 20 years, cities are being built. And in the last year, if I think about technology, AI, blockchain, people are choosing to camp and set up here. So there is an opportunity to create a good culture. And if we look at the world, you could argue the culture has gone in the wrong way in many different ways to some of the points you just raised. So again, we'll start broad and then we can find interesting elements to it. What is your involvement, on the desk right now? What is the hope over the next year or two in terms of how you create the right culture? And do you see it going the right way? Do you think this is going to be globally somewhere people are going to look at and say, okay, this is how now to do it?
When I went to university in 1986, 87, and I went to watch a football game, American football, slightly different. And there was an American gentleman next to me, and he said, "Where are you from?" And I went, "From Dubai." Where? And I went, the Gulf. I forgot. I was in Houston, and the Gulf means Gulf of Mexico as far as he's concerned. And he goes, "What?" And so I said, "Saudi Arabia." He recognized Saudi Arabia. Dubai wasn't even on the map. Fast forward 40 odd years. "Where are you from?" "Dubai." "Oh, okay, hey, fantastic. Can I go there as well?" This is what you aim to do, to take something from nothing and make it something where people aspire to go to. The UK, so London, was a place people aspire to go to. It was. New York was a place people aspire to go to.
You say it was, it's not anymore?
Do you want to get into politics here? I could, but I don't think we have enough time for that. One of the reasons, which is just one reason to prove my point on this one. Remember when I was telling you about Sheikh Zayed al-Rahman with in terms of wanting to raise the standard of living for everybody there? What has happened in the UK in the last 40 years? The government has, every government, and I'm not pointing at a particular government, every government has gone out of its way to protect capitalists. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not against benefiting from what you call capitalism, but not to the point where capitalism is so vicious that the poor suffer and the rich make a hell of a lot of money. There has to be somewhere in between. There has to be a system to bring it back in so that the money is spread within the system. If you look at today, your pensioner does £900, I think. Well, how does he live on that? It makes no sense.
Yeah, you can't if you're in a city.
And then you have a government that gives away money, seriously, gives away money to other countries where he wants to do businesses or expand or open up businesses for British companies here in those countries. Well, wouldn't you rather take that money and put it in your own country and allow them to, what you call, to benefit from it? That's why I'm saying was rather than is.
Yeah.
You look at all of the places where you have places where people have an opportunity to grow, to build, to do.
Just before we get on to Dubai, with the change we're at the end of 2024, the American leadership, and with what looks like the gentleman you brought up just now, Elon Musk, very much having his hand in, it looks like, the government's mentality, and Peter Thiel's and Silicon Valley, and you're really seeing now these individuals come in. Do you think that that's positive or negative to this particular point? Do you believe that they will consolidate wealth and the poor will be more disparate, or do you feel they might be able to democratize it?
Again, I'm going to go back a bit in history. I caught the tail end of President Reagan's presidency when I went to university. And the theory that he had was trickle-down economics, i.e., you make a lot of money and then it passes it down into the rest of the economy. Well, since then, from that time till now, 40-odd years later, has the American average Joe, has he, not in terms of real number, but real value, has he had a better life or a worse life? So you tell me whether trickle-down actually works. The more you consolidate, the only ones who are going to be happy about this one are going to be the bankers, because they get to keep a lot more money. You don't have enough going back into the economy. It's like I'm trying to keep as much grain for myself, even though there's people starving, and I'm giving them really small pieces of grains for them to just keep on going. I need them not to die, but I don't need them to prosper. I don't want them to prosper. The ultra high net worth value has shot up so much, and the middle class hasn't moved hardly anything from the 1980s to now. Perhaps you might even argue that it's gotten worse in real value versus nominal value. So when you look at that, you say, okay, why would I want to? Honestly, I always say, go and live the American dream. Why? To be taxed? I go and build and create and do. Oh, I have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom of speech. You have freedom of speech as long as it doesn't piss off certain people. But that you can say that in any country. You have freedom of speech as long as you don't piss off certain people. These concepts are not there. So I want to find the best place where I can grow my family in comfort, with the best possible education, best possible healthcare, best possible lifestyle, and make some money and grow a business or do something along those lines where I can invest in myself and become someone better. You're looking for those places where it will allow you to do that. And one of the reasons Dubai, very specifically, the UAE more in general, but Dubai specifically, has become successful is because it has taken that concept and said, you know what, leave your politics at home. Come and build whatever you want to build. Because the more you build, the more you do, the more the economy grows. The more the economy grows, the more people get attracted to it, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to tax you to death. I'm not going to, what you call it, undermine your business. I don't want to do these things. There are certain things that you, as in any place, you will always have people who are going to try to do something bad, no matter what you try to do. But overall, can you tomorrow come and set up and grow a business in Dubai with no restrictions? The answer is yes. If I came here to the UK and I tried to do that, I can't imagine the administrative issues I need to go through, one. Two, the civil issues I have to go through, because again, depending on the area I'm in and what's required, what's not required. Three, the financial issues I have to go through. What do I need? How much would I be taxed? Is it worth employing people over here? And I had an argument with the, not an argument, but it was a talk, and I mentioned this it was in France. And the majority of the audience were from a French university with a smattering of politicians there. And I said the problem with France in terms of unemployment, because there's a significant thing to the economy. I said the problem with France with unemployment is a very simple one. And by the way, it turns out it's something that's not just French-centric, but any country that applies such ideas will apply to. One of the reasons why I can't grow and I don't have employment is because you make it so hard for a person to fire somebody.
Yes.
I don't want to make it easy either, but you make it so hard to fire someone that I think twice about hiring a person. So if I don't hire the person, I don't have to fire him. I don't have to worry about that. And what I end up doing is contract, what you call it. So that the contract, when I contract a third party to work within the business, I'm not liable for their health. I'm not liable for their vacation. I'm not liable for any of the pensions, any of the other things. That's somebody else's problem, not mine. So what you end up doing is you're pushing people towards not hiring more people, not hiring them on a more stable structure, and you make their life more difficult. You need to be able to say, again, not to be so easy to fire anyone whenever you want, but if I have a downturn in the economy, don't make it so difficult for me to fire the people that I need to fire to keep the business going. Imagine it's like a body. You need to save the core. The peripheries can die, but the core needs to stay.
Yeah. So in our
But this is how it doesn't work. This is why it becomes harder and harder. So if I was to set up a business, I know of a company, not mentioning their name. They had been profitable for a very long time. They were part of a large conglomerate that was bought out by an American conglomerate. And that American conglomerate said, we don't want this business that's in France. We want to sell it. 6 years. 6 years. A profitable business was put up on the market, comes one buyer. Nobody touched it because they're thinking, I'm thinking ahead of time, what's going to happen in the future? I buy this company, something goes wrong, the economy tanks. What do I do with the people? This you cannot do. You have to understand, I need to bring in enough rules and regulations to do proper protection of the companies and the people. And it has to be a balance of both. I don't want to make it so hard for the employer not to employ. I don't want to make it so easy for the employer so he can get rid of employees at will. You just can't do that. You need to do a balancing act. But I also need to give the employer the ability to grow and say, here are opportunities. I don't want to compete with you on every aspect. There are certain things you're not going to be able to do. For example, if I need to create a power plant, I don't want a power plant done by a private equity, because the whole purpose of a private equity is to buy, upgrade sometimes, and then sell off. I need stability. This is where the government should take that role. I want the private companies, including private equity, to come into businesses I wouldn't, as a government, naturally touch. Come, build, create, do. Make it happen. If I need, as a government, to be the instigator, I will instigate it. I will start it. and then I will pull back away from it. I'm not going to go away completely, because this is a strange dichotomy. Here in the UK, in most of the world, when the government enters into a company, investors usually run away because they're worried, right? In our part of the world, it's the other way around. When the government enters into a business, this is where the money flows into it, because they say, this is a government that's looking long term, wants to create business and wants to create opportunities, and we want to be part of it, and I want to benefit from it. So there's this mindset that has this, that why we are the place where people are coming to, where when you have issues like the Ukraine issue, the Russia issue, the India and Pakistan, they constantly have issues. You have that money flowing into our part of the world because it is, to a certain degree, a safer haven. Not safe haven, a safer haven.
Yeah. So many reasons there that are super interesting around, what type of a business should what type of an organization be fronting. And therefore, if I look at the Kanoo Group today-ish and moving forward with your ambitions, if you don't mind giving roughly strategic plans, is that how you carry on thinking the opportunity for the group is stronger? Hence, I'll give two extremes. We've got this big movement in artificial intelligence. We've got the tokenization of real-world assets and the financial back office. And then we have, call it core business.
Yes.
Of course, a core business can use those technologies in them, or you can try and create businesses in them. Do you think your position, and of course answer it generally, is to stay on this side, is to do the things that are long-term projects where there's trust, like you say with a power plant? You don't particularly want to give this to someone who's going to be here and gone in the next 5 years for profit. How are you balancing that, Mishal, as somebody who is, across the kind of technical environment and would understand how profitable it could be? Would you tend to stay away from it? Talk us through that, please.
Can I give you a simile? In a football team, you have a goalkeeper, defenders, midfield, and attackers. Everyone in his dog constantly talks about the attackers because they're the ones who score the goal. But if you don't have solid defenders, if you don't have a solid goalkeeper, if you don't have a solid coach, if you don't have solid trainers, I don't care how good the attackers are, you're going to lose, right? It's the same thing with any business. The attackers are the new, sexy, interesting things: artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, IoT, etc. Those are the attackers. But in order for those attackers to do what they need to get done, I need the whole rest of the team to be solid and functioning. This is what old businesses are. They're there. They are actual, they're real, they function, and they hopefully, if they're well managed, make money. I'm not going to throw, as the proverbial saying, throw the baby with the bathwater. That's mad. But you do have people who, I will not tilt towards the attackers until I have a solid base. And all these things that we're talking about, the artificial intelligence, IoT, robotics, etc., they are tools like any other thing that has come and gone. It's how you add to them, how you utilize them. I'll jog your memory a bit to the 90s. In the 90s, everybody and his dog was talking about nanotechnology. You don't hear people talk much about nanotechnology. It's functioning. It's now in a lot of the stuff that's happening in manufacturing. It's there. But for most people, they don't use nanotechnology. It doesn't exist. It's a tool. Understanding it's not the holy grail. It's a tool. Artificial intelligence, potentially different than all the others, and I'll talk about that one separately if you don't mind, could be when I say game changer, I'm game changer not to business, game changer to humanity.
Yeah.
But let me park that aside. All the other things, whether it's blockchain, whether it's IoT, whether it's robotics, etc., they're all going to be things that could be added onto a business to make it more efficient, more productive, better. The companies who are willing to understand how to utilize those things and bring them as a tool back into their business and make the business more efficient, more productive. Those are the companies that are going to succeed and grow.
Yeah.
Huh? Because I can't. How can I compete when I'm using my normal old hand product versus the new? The equivalent of that one would be somebody who can use word processor versus somebody who's writing it in script. Now, writing a script could be beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It takes years and decades and dedication to produce beautiful script. But now, with a computer, a word processor, the same exact thing I can do in seconds. Right? It's mad for me to think, oh no, I'm just going to stick to handwriting script. It's the same thing in business. Any business, any of these new technologies come on board. Not to utilize them is mad. But you need to be able to understand the idea itself first before utilizing it. What most people are doing right now is just trying to beautify and saying, oh, we beautify our business by saying, oh, we're using this. No, you're not. I have a chatbot. Great. What does it do? I'm using artificial intelligence. How? What part of it? The Chinese are extremely great at understanding how to use artificial intelligence to lower their price and increase their market exposure. This is why you have companies like Temu and Shein who are killing their competition. They understand how to commercialize a tool. Any business who understands how to commercialize a tool in a way that benefits them, they're the ones who are going to succeed. So us as a company, we're looking at, we are not going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. That's not going to happen. But I need to find ways to make the goose more productive, more efficient, more beneficial, produce more eggs, golden eggs, that is. I need to help them find it. Now, it might take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. Everyone who's saying, will you call it we're using artificial, most of them, forgive me, they're talking rubbish. They're not doing it. It's just, I don't want to be seen that I'm missing out. On a large scale, there might be companies that actually are doing that. If you have enough size, economies of scale, financial backing to be able to go ahead and do that, fine. But when it changes every 6 months, every year, and I've now invested in this direction, whatever this direction might be, and the new thing comes and moves in a different direction. Am I going to say, oh, you know what, let me scrap everything I've done for the last 6 months, and I've paid God knows how many million in, and go back to this new idea? So by the time you teach people how to use this one, it's moved again back to another direction. This is where the madness kicks in. From a business, you need to take a long-term view. You need to say, which of these tools benefits me? How can I implement it? Which are the best companies that are going to be able to help me implement it? Sometimes, not the large names, but the smaller companies might be the ones who are more nimble and able to fix and flex with you to give you the tool that you want versus a large name, which, as far as they're concerned, you're just a money maker for them.
With AI, which we can get to separately, I'm interested in how you've seen it affect the different sectors. But just to riff on your point, it's like somebody chasing the football, to carry on with your analogy, you know, a fad, and then you're looking for when it's a trend, which this probably is a mega trend. I've seen companies now who've got the right scale, got the right platforms where they're reducing their workforce disparately and their profit is increasing. So of course, you know, this is every generation of, you know, humanity has theorized that the machines are going to replace humans. Is this potentially the time? I'd like you to talk to in a second, but just to finish the thinking.
Sure.
And I'm not sure. I suppose what I hope for is perhaps it creates more businesses perhaps like yours. Because I think it's very hard for a leader and personal connection across businesses of several thousand, 60,000, you know, these are kind of like faceless organizations. I don't think that many people are happy in these jobs. And so one theory is that what this allows is smaller organizations to be pretty profitable, lay more golden eggs, because they have more efficiencies, more entrepreneurialism, hopefully those businesses to stay around. That's the way this goes well, unless obviously the AI just kills us all. But love to know your view and your thinking around this.
Okay.
It's going to kill us all.
I'm going to take the point that you started off in terms of layoffs. One of the way I look at people who work within the organization is one person equals three. And that one person, whoever he or she is working, has a spouse and a child, at the very least. Is it worth that extra 50, 100, 10,000, whatever, put them whatever X you want. Is it worth that much more to the bottom line than the person's life and the livelihoods that he brings for all the other people that are with him or her? And in my head, it doesn't compute. Maybe this is the wrong way to say it as a person who is running a business, but it doesn't compute. I don't care so much.
Because we've heard your values, and this is the point around, if the computer makes the decision, then efficiencies will make the decision, and therefore the one is actually three people or often more, and the weight you have as a leader on your shoulders of all of these families want to, have a nourishing, rewarding life, potentially is diminished.
Exactly. They matter. These are humans. This is not a digital 0 and 1. This is not a piece of paper. These are humans, human life. They matter. They're not insignificant. Is having an extra million, 10 million, 100 million, if you want to really splash out, worth X number of people's livelihoods? In my head, it doesn't compute. Yes, don't get me wrong. It's not, who doesn't like having money and being able to spend and enjoy having a good life? But if I made 100 million or I made 200 million, for the love of God, is my life going to change?
Probably not you, Mishal, but I suppose when you have shareholders and it is about each quarter reporting the short-term thinking, then unfortunately we see what happens.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong with that. But the shareholders have to also remember that there are people who are actually working to ensure that they get something for the amount of money they invested. They're not insignificant. They're not unimportant. They matter. There has to be, if I could shrink certain aspects, I would want to shrink inefficiencies. I want to increase productivity, but not to the point that it becomes so redundant that humans cease to exist and everything is done by computers. I need to have a balance. How do we do this balance? That's what, if you want to lead, that's where you lead. It's not, if just to make money, oh, hell, it's not that, honestly, it's really not that hard to make money, paper money. You need to have somewhat of a capital to start with. You need to have an education, and you need to be able to utilize the capital with the education you have. And a bit of luck doesn't hurt. And you can grow. But that's not the point. The point is you have a lot of people who live from paycheck to paycheck, live one medical problem, and the whole life goes topsy-turvy. You can't have that. Your job is to protect them. That's the whole point of having a business. So the argument in a family business, by the way, is what's more important, the family or the business? And you could see that when you had the case of COVID. So what we did in COVID, it was a very simple thing. And by the way, it was not an arbitrary decision. It was a decision I was asked through all the employees in the company, what would you rather do? So we gave the choice. We can do redundancies to make sure at least we cover our expenses, or everyone takes a pay cut, a significant pay cut, starting from myself. Everyone takes a pay cut, and when the business comes back, we'll pay back all the pay cuts back to the people. They chose the second one. It's because you have to care. If you do not care, I'm sorry, you don't lead. You might financially benefit yourself, but you don't lead. And leading is to care. The best example I could think of in terms of what it means to be a leader. Is a story. Again, this is a story. I got this at university. The story goes, a young boy with his father walking in China. Don't ask me where. And they see what looks like a very important person sitting on and massive, huge amount of other important people surrounding him. And so the son goes, "Father, who's that?" And he goes, "That's the emperor of China." So the son says, "He must be the smartest man in China." The father goes, "No, that's that man over there." He goes, "Oh, he must be the best swordsman in China." "No, that's that man over there." "He must be the best philosopher in China." "That man there." "He must be the best this and he must be, no, that. So the son at the end goes, "He's not the best swordsman. He's not the best philosopher. He's not the best thinker. He's not the best. How is he the emperor of China?" And the answer is, he is the hub that allows all the spokes to function. That's what a leader does. Every one of them matters. And subsequently, from all of those, they also have people behind them that also matter. I must make sure that everybody benefits. Otherwise, I'm not a leader. How do you lead? Who am I leading? Sheep? Or who am I leading? I don't want to lead sheep. I want to lead people. I want to lead people to have a better life. I don't want to kill my business. So again, it has to be a balance. Taking humanity into account, taking the business into account, taking the shareholders, as you rightly mentioned, taking the shareholders into account. So if the shareholder didn't make 50,000 this year, but made 48,000, is his or her lifestyle going to change? I don't think so. But what does it matter? Now, I'm not giving the shareholder the short end of the stick to enhance and enrich myself, my ego. No, that's not a leader. That's an egotistical, narcissistic person. I'm doing that because a situation has arose and I need to make sure that the people who are actually doing the work are protected and the people who have paid in, the investors, shareholders who have paid in, also benefit. And me as a management, I'm also getting rewarded. My reward might be a less of a reward because the situation is worse. It might be better a reward because the situation is better. I need to do that balance. Anyone who thinks otherwise, no, they're not a leader, honestly.
So I think that I love that story of the different individuals in China. That really relates. And so if we think about, and then we'll move to the Mana round, but just to close out on AI, if we think about how perhaps you're seeing Dubai could take the opportunity, what I'm hearing, which I do, as you'd imagine, not have the answer to, obviously, unless we educate or drive awareness of this type of thinking, this type of ethos, this type of philosophy, economic structures make it very tricky for shareholders not to just think how they have been thinking, which could be efficiencies economically over, let's take a medium long-term view of, looking after this individual, looking after this person in this organization is more profitable, and profit isn't just money, profit is also
less, I know.
Exactly. And then all I can get to, which is very basic, is so you either need to regulate whilst educating, and or both, or possibly how do you utilize the efficiencies that inevitably people will use from AI that doesn't take it all to a zero-sum game where it's gonna end up with the few getting even richer, the general lifestyle, even of the middle class here. Actually, I think AI's biggest threat of the three is to the middle class. It's quite hard to disrupt some of the entry-level positions because they can be more manual labor. I mean, robotics is coming through, but middle class, the person who's kind of writing the contracts in a law firm, and it sounds like they've got a good salary maybe to the lower classes, but actually then they've got this certain type of middle class lifestyle, are in equally a tricky position here, and this might get disrupted even more. And then again, top goes up. So the top will be incentivized to do that, unless we're fortunate and they think like you, Mishal, and they're level-headed and they want everybody to come up with them, or there's some type of regulation. So one, is how can we educate more? We can do more shows like this. We can get your voice and other people who have the right type of long-term ethics. And the other might be regulate. Do you know what Dubai is looking to do? What are you looking to do? How could we solve for this and make it go in the right direction, if we can?
Regulation is important. Enforcing regulation is even more important. Not being a zealot in enforcing regulation is also important. The courts here in the UK are one of the worst courts to be in because it doesn't take into account human activity. It takes into account paper. So if in paper you agree to something, you're stuck, irrespective of what caused the thing. It might be something that had to do with a human failure or a human touch or somebody trying to do a good. And it's been taken because you signed it. It's a piece of paper. Did you sign it? Therefore, as far as me as a judge is concerned, a regulator, I'm going to judge for the person who signed off. You will not win in that manner. This is madness. By the way, I like to tell stories because ideas might be nice, but a story gets the idea across. What happens when you only regulate, i.e. enforce the regulation, versus when you understand the whole environment that created this? So a lot of regulations, a lot of legislation that happens, it usually happens from a good intention, but a good intention, what's the expression? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Because what happens is there will be people who will abuse what was intended to get to a goal. They have one goal in mind. That's it. I want to abuse. I want to utilize. President Trump actually said that when he said, when they asked him about his several of his companies filing for Chapter 11, he goes, I used what was allowed. As a businessman, I had an opportunity. I used it. Hey, too bad. The shareholders suffered. That's not my fault. He's not wrong in saying, I used what was there. Ethically, that was a horrible decision to make. No, but he didn't do it once, he did it 3 times at least. But, everybody forgot that. The reason I'm saying it in terms of telling a story, and I'll tell you, this is a hadith, an incident that happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And I'll tell you why I'm saying it, just to understand rules and regulations, regulator, and understanding the environment, capacity to have mercy. So in Islam, if you are an adulterer, the judgment on adultery as per the law is to be stoned to death. Okay? I'm not going to get into the controversy of why yes, no. That's a different argument over there. Let's just take, that's the rule. You commit adultery, you get stoned. That's the rule. And the regulator in this case, the adjudicator, would be the Prophet ﷺ. So a woman comes to him and tells him, I have committed adultery. So he tries not to hear her. And he sends her away. She comes again and says, I've committed adultery. Again, he tries not to hear her. The reason why he's doing that is because if I hear you, I have to apply the law. And I don't want to do that. I'm giving you a chance to fix it between you and your creator. Whether he figures you or not, that's his issue, but I don't want to apply the law. It's harsh. Go away. She comes back a third time. Now this time he asks her, are you pregnant? And she goes, yes. He goes, go away until you give birth. So you have 9 more months to think about the issue. She comes back after 9 months. And he says, did you give birth? She goes, yes. She goes, go back because the child, has a right to be fed by you 2 years. Go away. She goes, feeds the child, finishes the 2 years, comes back again and says, I want the law to be applied to me. The reason why she's doing that, before people think, oh, she's mad, because for her, the fear of angering her creator is much more than that of being stoned, right? So at this point, he says, okay, you've given me no choice. After at least 3 years, for you to go away and think about it, and don't come back to me. You still insisted on coming back. And then they applied the law. By the way, this was the only issue that has been recorded in the time of Prophet ﷺ when this happened. And as they're stoning her, they're insulting her. And at this point, the Prophet stops them and says, no, no, no. You see that woman? She has more courage than all of you put together. And he's talking about people who are battle-hardened. And they're like shocked. How can you say that? Because she actually wanted to do this out of fear of her creator, not displeasing her creator, versus you who wanted to, what you call it, just stone. You're taking out revenge, you're taking out anger. She's actually doing it out of mercy. He was put in a position where he had to do it. Why am I mentioning this? Again, it becomes the issue of what's more important. He gave her the chance to go away. I don't want to apply the law. It's the education that so her education in that she has learned, this is my, I've done something wrong and I want to fix it. This is my education. His education is to say, I care about the environment, I care about the community, I care about the society. I don't want to create these harshness, because that's what it is. When you start doing that once, twice, you start creating a very harsh environment. A harsh environment causes harsh laws. Harsh laws creates exactly what we have today, where people are nasty with one another. Instead of saying, you know what, let's not apply that. The law is there as a last resort. It shouldn't be the thing I used to whip you with. But this is what happens today. Everywhere you go, the law is being used, or legislation is being used to whip you, instead of understanding the overall environment and trying to understand how to be more compassionate and caring. Look at how societies that we've been pushed towards. This is where education comes into play. I need to teach you to be fair and just, but at the same time, temper that with care and human touch. I don't need to just harm you. Just because I want to prove a point, I harm you. Don't do that. This is madness. This is what we're doing currently today. If you want to do that shift, you need to start with education. Everything starts with education. And by the way, here's the madness of the thing. If you look at the 100 years since the start of Islam to the whole area that falls under Islamic rule, it could never have happened. Never. If it was just applying rules and regulations and being harsh with people. It happened because the ones who started ruling started saying, I'm not going to come and dictate over you. I'm not going to come and lord over you. I'm not going to come and force you to do something you don't want to do. I'm actually going to understand what are your issues? How do I bring you on board? How do I bring you as part and parcel of the Islamic world? I'll give you a perfect example of how this worked. Do you know that for the first 700 years, 700 of Egypt's life under Islamic rulers, the majority were Christians. They did not force conversion. You saw the same thing in Persia as well. This is what attracted a lot of people to the Islamic world, that allowed it to grow, that allowed it to prosper. And they brought their new ideas and their new thoughts and new processes that brought this prosperity in that 100 years that allowed them to expand the way it did. It was not because they were fantastic swordsmen. No, no, no. It wasn't because they were fantastic, what you call it, at beating the living hell out of people. If you take that concept, it's education, it's willingness to be open and easy with people, to allow people to come in and bring their culture and understanding. If you apply this to business, if you apply this to our world, this world will be completely different. But what we're doing right now is, if I want more, and I want more at your expense. In fact, you mentioned about artificial intelligence. Let's talk about artificial intelligence for just a second on this one. Artificial intelligence, you mentioned, say, will affect the middle class more. actually it will affect the middle class less. And I'll tell you why. Not because you can't do more efficiency in the, whether it's a entry-level lawyer or doctor, etc. You can. Artificial should be able to do 90-something% of what they do. But I, as a bank, do not want them to be out of a job, because that person has a mortgage. That person pays his taxes. I do not want them out of a job. I want them in a job, and I want them producing money and paying me. This is the vicious mindset that's there. They're not looking. So, the whole concept of a bank, by the way, has been completely distorted. The idea of a bank was, I pool money, people need the money, I give you to help you, what you call it, to grow your crops or do your whatever business you're trading, and then you pay me back, and you pay me, what you call it, for my for lending you the money. Okay, that's the whole purpose. What has it become? That's gone by the by. It's, I'm going to sell you an idea, and then I'm going to make you pay me that idea. So you don't need to buy you can buy a small car, but hey, I'm going to give you the idea of buying a bigger, faster, flashier car. And to be able to pay that, here's a credit card. I'm giving you a credit card, and I'm charging you 25% or 30% on the thing. Oh, by the way, if you want, you can also take a personal loan at, I don't know, whatever interest rate is. And I want you to keep on. I'm going to penalize you. If you pay me early, I'm going to penalize you. What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you that the bank wants to actually do a service for the community, for the society. It wants to make as much money as it can. That is the weird madness that we are living in. If you want to do these shifts, these changes, it's not going to happen the way system we have currently. You need to have a complete different system. Artificial intelligence is scaring me, not because of the jobs that are going to be lost. It's scaring me about how it could be utilized in a nastier way. And you can start seeing this by even the discussion, oh, it's going to take away jobs. That's the argument. I'm prepping you. I'm prepping you for an idea. It's going to take away jobs. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. I'm trying to give you the fear of what's going to happen, so that when it does happen, you already know it's going to happen, right? So this is what I want to do. If just with artificial intelligence, in terms of how much pain I can cause, redundancy is one. Job redundancy we talked about, mentioned. It's definitely there. I can become even a better trader, a better doctor, a better engineer, a better whatever you want. But who is this serving? See, in history, and I'm going to say something that might be considered controversial, but in every era and every time, and across the geography, it doesn't really matter, I constantly wanted slaves. And the purpose of a slave was for him or her to do a job that I don't want to do, or it's too difficult for me, or too nasty for me, or too dangerous for me. I want them to do that so that I have a better lifestyle. And whether their lifestyle is good or bad, I don't care. They're secondary. They're expendable.
It's about to change.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So what I've done is I want to have these amount of slaves there. Slavery became not a usable word anymore. So we shifted that. We have different class names, but it's there. The concept that you're a slave to your credit card, you're a slave to your mortgage, you're a slave to your car insurance, expenses. You're a slave to your school expenses, because you're constantly paying into this. Are you really benefiting from it? The answer is not so much. The car, the moment you buy a car, 25%, 30% gone out of value, but you're still buying a new one. Why? The house is the same thing. You buy the house. Oh, I got the house. No. All you did is you just started yourself on many expenses that you don't know about: maintenance, insurance, home decorating, furniture. All of these new experiences new expenditures that you're going to have to go through. It's not just I got a house. I'm happy. No. It's all of these things. So I'm creating newer and newer expenses for you. you are becoming a slave. You just don't know about it. It's becoming more and more important. And for those affluent who have the money, those are the ones who are not affluent so much. But for those affluent, I'll give you other things to be slave to. You need a new watch. You need a new suit. You need to travel. You need to see the world. You need to use a private jet. You need to use first class. And by the way, I'm not saying any of these things are bad things. I'm just saying it's now being pushed into our heads that these are the things we need. We don't need them. We want them. There's a difference. A need becomes part of slavery. A want is a choice. Right? I choose to do this. But we're pushing them, new ideas. You need to have this. You need to buy new shoes. Oh, and by the way, your new shoes are not going to be the 50-pound shoe. No. It has to be the 500-pound shoe. And you need to go to this restaurant. You need to eat at this food. And so on and so forth. We're becoming slaves, a different type of slaves. Then you have in the past, and the Americans used to have this. You have the field slaves and you have the house slaves. The field slaves were the ones on the field doing the donkey's work. Those are the ones who are less affluent in society today. Sorry, I'm giving a simile, but a lot of people will be very unhappy with me saying this. The house slave, majority, the majority of the upper middle class to even lower high class, financial high class, affluent people, because they're buying the new affluent stuff. That's the house slave, because he's getting better food, he's getting better clothes, but he's still part of the slavery.
I've got, so I'm 42, so many people of my peer group, this has very much been a theme throughout Searching for Mana show, where I've tried to find, people who are 60 to 90, whatever it might be, where I think they've had, a rewarding career in life. And, my values there are similar to some of the ones that you're talking about, Mishal, which is, I want across a 7-day week to spend a day or two reading and being thoughtful, and I want to spend time with my family, engaged in some of the time. I want to have a challenge in business and, this kind of rounded life where there's a nice flow to it and, there's human connection. And sometimes I want to be an introvert and read in my library. And, there's this life that I aspire to, and some and very few people have seemed to get close to it. But the vast majority, whether the materialistic numbers are large or middling, are incredibly depressed. And so, observing the peer group around me, and when I've got the privilege to interview many people on Searching for Mana who are perceptionally successful, that's why we do this long format show where we're trying to look how they are. And so many of them are in some type of construct of jail that they've created for themselves, because they're, we were talking about searching for mana, and you were questioning before the show, is searching the right type of phrasing? And I think in one way it could be perceived as the completely wrong phrase, but in one way I'm starting to think of it as the complete right thing for me anyway, which is, curiosity. And actually that part of the journey is the enjoyable part, it's the rewarding part. When you look back, you mostly don't say I ended up with this much in the bank and I had that many staff or that many slaves. You're hopefully going to say there's this moment when I was 38, 52, and it was wonderful. It was a nice life, and I not gave back from a charity perspective yet for me, but perhaps I gave back in terms of there was a community who benefited from my efforts. So when I think about what you're saying there, and again, I don't know what the solutions are here. This is very, very, very tricky things to think through. There's so many people in my peer group who, I might have known at 20, 25, who are wonderful, thoughtful individuals, and I can't meet up with them anymore. 3 hours of the conversation over a coffee is about the mortgage that they're just moving on up to, and they got a new job. They moved from BlackRock to Blackstone, and then the family's decided, well, we'll level up the property now, we'll get this materialistic thing, and it's just always on the edge of the jail that you're in, constantly stressed. There's no friendship or philosophy anymore, and it's very depressing. And I really don't know what to do about it, and I'm not sure if anyone can, other than this searching for mana, which is if you can put a spotlight on enough thought leaders who've got it right, perhaps it has an effect.
You're quite right. They're stuck in that rut. They're stuck in that rut and they can't get out of it. Oh, by the way, funny definition of a rich. You know you're rich when you don't know what's the concept of weekend. Because every day is a weekend for you, as far as you're concerned. You're not working. Or if you're working in a very leisure pace, and you're happy and you don't have to worry about these things.
Everybody here's here on Christmas Eve, so well done, guys.
The problem we have as humans is we're not realizing we have a very limited time here. And that limited time should not be. It wasn't. We used to, when we talked about them in the past, we used to make fun of them. But now they become the standard. You would not aspire to be ultra-rich person. That was not an aspiration for people. People aspire to have a good life, have a good time with their family, make sure their family is protected, being able to enjoy their time with it. And today, the usual regret is I didn't have enough time to spend with my kids because I was busy earning a living. I'll tell you the story again. Sorry, I tend up doing this. By the way, I do find that storytelling is the best way to get a point across. In 2008, when you had the financial crisis that was happening, and I went to Egypt in November. I was talking about it in a family business conference, and I arrived in Egypt. I finished the conference, and I walked down on the corniche that they have in front of the Nile. And I started realizing, looking at people, what you call their husband, wife, fiance, families, and they're laughing and joking and eating and getting on with life. And a lot of them were, I don't know if I'm going to get paid tomorrow. But it didn't matter because they had the family, they get on with life. And it dawned on me. I just came back from one of the richest cities, which is Dubai, where you couldn't throw a stone without hitting a millionaire, for argument's sake. And everybody was walking as though he had the Rock of Atlas on his or her back.
Yeah.
And I came to a city where these people rightly have the reason to worry because they don't know whether they're going to get food tomorrow. But they're enjoying life. And I said, there's a problem in the way we think. And sadly, this flowed through. I was sitting with one of my uncles at the time in his office, and he's telling me, one day you're going to sit in my chair. And he was 70 at the time. And I looked at him, and at the moment I said it, I regretted it because I realized I just insulted his life, and I shouldn't have done that. But it came out a natural thing because that's what I was thinking. I said, no, I don't want to be in your seat. I don't want to die between four walls. I just minimalized his life to four walls and a business. Because in my head, I'm thinking, these walls are not going to cry over me. They're not going to say, thank you, you took care of me. Thank you, you actually mattered to my life. You actually added value to my life. These walls are not going to do that. People are. Humans are. Be it my family or people who I have had an effect on their lives, or who have had an effect on my life. We make a mistake, by the way. Whenever a person comes and asks you for money, begging you for money, we think we're doing them a service. No, it's the other way around. They're doing us a service because they're reminding us, one, there are humanities that we should be taking care of. We forget that. It's not the other way around. And that they're giving us the opportunity to do good. We forget that. It's not the other way around. I'm not doing them a good. They're doing me a good. And I should think about that. And the mindset needs to shift. This all comes to education. My first educating in this manner happened because of my mother. Spoiled brat, 7-year-old. Had some food. The cook brought the food and he put pepper in the food. At 7 years old, I couldn't eat pepper. So, of course, as a brat, threw a tantrum. My mother didn't say anything. Finished. In the afternoon, she says, come with me. Where are we going? So we were going to go and buy fruits, different fruits. Okay, so go. So buy fruits, and we put the different fruits in bags. And there's an area those days behind the Jumeirah Mosque where a lot of the underprivileged people would live. And she said, you go and you knock on the door and you give them the fruits. 7-year-old, this is a daunting task. I don't know them. I have no idea how to interact with them, what to say. I don't know. She said, do that. Knock on the door and open. And say, by the way, when they open the door, you can see inside. You can see how their lifestyle is compared to yours. And it makes me think, wow, not everyone has my lifestyle, right? Starts to think, especially at that age. And then we'll finish that. My mother says, only by chance and education are you here versus in that place. Don't forget that. It doesn't take much for you to be in that position and for that person to be in your position. Don't discount people. Their lives matter. Their lives are important and significant as much as my life is significant and important. So when I'm on my deathbed, I want my people who are around me because they cared for me and loved me, and I cared for them and loved them. And when I try to motivate my employees in terms of getting things, to do things, I don't tell them, do it because as the part of the winning spirit and all the usual, forget all of this thing. I'm going to work on human nature. In human nature, we're self-serving, okay? When I want people around me, it's because I'm serving myself. I want people to who care about me. No. So I tell them, when you're on your deathbed and your kids are around you, and you can point to the thing that you accomplished, and you did, and you helped, and you made, how much pride would you have because of the people around you seeing what you've done and how much you've accomplished? That is the only reason you do what you do and increase what you do and make people's life better. I want it. I know it's self-serving, but it's self-serving that will help others too. We need to understand that we have to help one another. I don't care. Hunger, refugee, starvation, pain, suffering, torture, whatever you want to call these delightful things that we go through, does not know race, religion, creed, political, what you call affiliation. It doesn't understand that. It doesn't understand your color, doesn't understand your gender, doesn't understand any of these things. You could be any of those things and it'll still happen to you. And if we understand that, and we put ourselves in the other person's place, then we start changing the world. The world changes because we want to start this change. We have reached this point of horrible capitalism that is, because we shifted. It wasn't the case before. If you look back to the 30s, 40s, and yes, you did have different classes, except all of this is always part of humanity. We're always going to have different classes. But it wasn't a class to the point that I'm going to make you suffer for me to live a fantastic life. Yeah, I know people will say, well, I can show in history where that's happened. They are the few. Most people lived and survived because of their community, because of people around them. Because when I gained, you benefited. One of the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, and by the way, this is an occurring theme in my life and in my understanding. One of his saying was, you are not a believer if you're, to that effect, you're not a believer if your neighbor goes hungry and you're eating. It has nothing to do with neighbor. You have to understand the bigger picture. It means that if you don't take care of one another, if you don't care for the other person, irrespective of whether the person is of the same religion or the same concept, it doesn't. There are secondary issues that we create. This person cannot suffer and you enjoy life. I need this other person's life to raise, which comes back again, full circle to what we started in the beginning. My job, as if I want to lead, is to raise people's life. I don't necessarily want to bring my life down. I want to raise my life, but I want to bring others with me because they have to benefit too. I don't want to die knowing I have 15 homes, sort of houses, 30 planes, 65 yachts, and a hell of a lot of money in the bank. To do what with? What? What is the benefit? All I'm going to do is have the inheritors fight over it? What's the purpose?
When you have children, I have a 6-year-old daughter, you can see some, if she's normal, human psychology. And, let's say we've had a few weeks at home and everything's fine, and then she goes and stays with her cousins. And then the next day, when I pick her up, she'll inevitably want, if she's seen something they've got, to have that herself. So what I think is happening here, and then it's very interesting how to kind of parent that. And I love the story about you just gave about your mum, because I'm going to be using that on Lily. Is probably communication, papers, then internet, and then this, in essence, has taken maybe those cultures where you cared about the 100 people around you, and you really cared about them because you got to see what they had and you got to see if they were upset. So human maybe has more empathy in that scenario. And then you have this huge kind of industrialization, and then you have globalization, and then you really have the religions becoming not always the primary pillar of somebody's ethics. You just have what I could debate is positive, but I could also debate is where many of the problems have come from. So I'm going to ask, because, I'm of Arabic and English heritage, mother's from a Christian family, father's from a Muslim family, so maybe I'm somebody who can ask these tough questions. Again, when I hear, so sorry, I didn't finish my point there, but if we're thinking of that human psychology, so Lily, my daughter, she just wants what she sees other people have. And I suppose that's natural.
Yes.
And if she didn't see that, she'd be happy with, the average toys I've bought her. And then this starts to happen where you could be living anywhere in the world and see the most privileged person on the planet. And really the only thing that might teach me philosophically to not want that is the good lessons that you're teaching me as, well, I'm sure as a wonderful leader and father and all of these things. But a lot of it comes back from the stories you've been taught or have from scripture.
Yes.
And in your instance, you're Muslim. And, the last 10 years has been tricky for Muslims. And I think in some ways.
How?
Where I have, Abdul Wahed as my surname. You've had a lot of people talk around, the Muslim religion as causing a lot of issues in the world. I ask you, because we've heard your
yes, okay,
good stories that come from it, your good grounding, and I could sit here and think, roll this out, Mishal. Like, if more people could think like you here, we would have balanced wisdom. But a lot of people would say one of the problems right now is the Muslim religion. How do you think about this? And sorry for the tricky question.
Not at all.
A rare guest I can
Not
ask.
at all. I'm actually glad you asked. Glad this asked the question. Although it's outside of the scope of business, but it does have an effect. The religion is not the problem. People enacting parts of the religion is a problem, because you can see with we have a lovely saying in Arabic, and I'll say it in Arabic and I'll translate it. كل من يرى الناس بعين طبعه. Everyone sees the other person from his own eye. So if you're nasty by your being,
Yes,
you're only going to see the other person's nasty. If you're kind by your being, your natural disposition is the other person's is kind. We have to stop trying to say the religion is a fault. Religion is giving you a direction. What you do with the direction is up to you. If I gave you a car and I told you, here's a car, it'll make your life easier, You can go from point A to point B in comfort, etc. And you use that for that purpose, then you fulfill this purpose. If, on the other hand, you use the car to drive over people, is the car at fault? No, the car is not at fault. You are the person behind the wheel deciding to plow into people. Whose fault is it? It's not the car's fault, it's the driver's fault. In the same case, it's not the religion's fault, it's the person who wants to utilize the religion for his or her own purpose and our understanding. If you watch, if you look at the life, the historical writing of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, you will see that a very short, very small part of it has to do with warfare. And that warfare is defensive warfare, not offensive warfare. Majority of it is defensive, not offensive. I'm not going to get, I can actually enter into the religious concept, but I'm not going to do that because this is not the area. Majority of it was talking about faith, talking about the oneness of God, talking about our connection to our Creator, talking about, this is in Mecca, and in Medina, it talks about the rules and regulations in terms of how to live a good life. What is required of you? How do you interact with yourself? How do you interact with the community, your society, men and women, father and child, inheriting. All these aspects which are nothing to do with killing others. But there are those who decide, hey, I'm going to use this as a way to justify me being nasty. It's because you are nasty. It's not the religion who's nasty. You are nasty. You want to be vicious, you're going to be vicious. And you will find any excuse, whether it's religion, whether it's environment, whether it's the law, you will find ways to do this.
So I appreciate you talking to this, and we'll move to the next round.
Sure.
Because I know it's not about business, but nonetheless, I just wanted to give you the chance to talk to it. So the final question on that is just, would you say that you would hope then that religion would become more prominent? Because certainly my assessment is that as it has diminished, not many people have got those pillars of values that are across most religions.
Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. And it's not because the argument is because produce more kids. No, everyone produces kids. The Indians produce kids, for God's sakes. Most of them are Hindus. But it's nothing to do with the religion. Produce kids in terms of expansion of that religion. Islam, when you get the chance to actually move the sound, these voices that are coming out, and you do your own search, you find a lot of people who you think would never be a Muslim become a Muslim. Why? Because it appeals to us as our nature. Again, if your nature is good, you're going to want it. If your nature is bad, you're not going to want it. One of the reasons, by the way, you're seeing a lot of attack on Islam, and this is incredible. And I'm not going to take credit for this. I actually heard this on TikTok, and it made complete sense. What are the things that Islam, as a religion, stops you from doing? It doesn't allow you to kill for the sake of killing. It doesn't allow you, it stops you from gambling. It blocks alcohol. It blocks banking. The banking the way it's done currently.
Investment banking?
No. In banking, meaning I'm going to charge you interest rate and interest rate.
That's right.
Interest rate on interest rate. I'm just basically killing you.
Yeah.
Right? Creating mortgages, creating this, just to kill you financially. It blocks pornography, blocks all of these things that kills most of the economy that we know today. So if those concepts were applied here, the economies, most of the businesses would have a problem, if not die.
Yes.
Gambling, you can see how many companies are. They'd be dead.
Yeah.
Again, alcohol, bars, restaurants, etc. Most of these things would be dead. And you can go on and on. But what will be the flourishing part is all that money and all that benefit will be going back into the society, will be going back into the community. and they will flourish. But hey, I don't want the plebeians to flourish. I am sitting on the top of the heap. I want to flourish. I don't want them to flourish. And so therefore, a religion that comes and says, I'm supporting the poor to bring up their lifestyle and taking away from your lifestyle as Mr. Billionaire, you think I'm going to fight it? I'll go with it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you talking to that. So we're going to move into the searching for Mana round now. So quick fire.
Yes.
4 or 5 questions that we ask all of the guests. So to start with, Mishal, you have a billboard that a lot of traffic passes, and you get to put on the billboard whatever message you think is most important.
Get an education.
Love it. You are up at night at the moment, and it's not because you're drinking too much caffeine or coffee. It's because something is stressing you out in the economy. What is it?
Human stupidity.
You have a lot of pressure on your shoulders from the business that you successfully run. And I'm curious to know what grounds you in a routine, if it's in the morning, to prepare you to be composed and successful in a given day.
No. The only thing that causes me to have calmness and less stress in whatever stressful thing happens. And I remember at the end of the day, I am and will always be a slave to my Creator, and whatever He wishes to happen will happen irrespective of what I do. And I just hope and wish that He is kind with me.
Similar to the next question then, but perhaps you have a different one. Do you have a particular, that's a great one. Do you have a particular mantra or sentence or phrase that keeps you balanced, positive?
Yes. And it's not mine. It's again from religious education. And very simple. Therefore, I'll say it in Arabic and I'll translate what they mean. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar. Subhanallah, all praise to my Creator, to the Creator. Alhamdulillah, thank you. I'm thanking my Creator for giving me all what He's given me. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, and there is no God but Allah. Subhanallah, Wallahu Akbar. And God is the greatest. No matter how much somebody would lord over you, no matter how strong and how powerful that person thinks that he or she is, they're never going to be as strong as a Creator. And if you'd allow me, just a small little example. This is, by the way, this is in the Old Testament and in the Quran. Talking about Pharaoh with Musa alayhi salam. But this is not mentioned, I don't think it's mentioned in the Old Testament, but it's mentioned in the Quran. So when Moses gets to the edge of the sea and parts the sea, and they cross, of course, the Pharaoh and his army following. And they get inside, the Israelites crossed over, the sea's closing, and the waves start to come. And at that point, in the Quran, Pharaoh says, I believe in the God of Moses. So before you said you were a God, you had power over life and death. You could create everything. You ruled everything. You thought you were all powerful. You thought there was no one stronger than you, and you could dictate whatever you want. And when it happened, and death came to you, at that point you remembered that you're weak. So if when you remember this, nobody, I don't care who he is going to be able to dictate your life. There is one other thing which is very important to me, and it's mentioned in the Quran several times, that your risk, your, not wealth, but your, everything you're going to have is written for you. Go up, come down, right, left. Whatever's yours is going to come to you in spite of everybody. No matter what you do, it'll come to you. If it's not yours, no matter how much you work, it's not coming to you. With that in mind, you don't have to worry too much.
Something that people might not expect, so this is, the extracurricular. I know you have many, could be art, football team, something to give some color to your life and your passions outside of business, please.
I have suffered and enjoyed at the same time, different times, Liverpool Football Club since 1977. And it's all because of one player, Kenny Dalglish.
Amazing.
When he joined in Liverpool in 1978.
You thought he looked cool, or he was the best?
He was an excellent player.
Yeah.
And you look at him and you go, I want to be like him.
Amazing. And you're off to see Liverpool on Boxing Day.
Yes.
Who are they playing?
Leicester.
What do you think? Good chance to win?
God knows.
2 more questions that we always ask, searching for Mana, great leaders like other leaders, if there was somebody who you would recommend to come on the show for me to have a conversation with.
Yes, there's one gentleman I think you'd benefit, again, not necessarily from business, but rather in overview, is Sheikh Sultan Saud Al-Qasimi. He is the founder of Burjil Art. He's a massive speaker in the Arab art world, and he's a beautiful human.
Fantastic, thank you. So the main question, just to give context, I know we've spoke about it, but Mana is, there's different interpretations, some of them religious, but I tend to use gaming as a good example, where you have power, this is your life and death, and then you have your Mana, so this might be that you've got excellent sword skills, you can jump really high, you can run really fast. We have learned, I think, some of your Mana, but Mishal, I'd love to know what you say your superpower and your Mana is.
I guess it would be reading. There's no way you're going to get an understanding, an education, insight other than reading. And not just reading people who you like or people who say things that you want to hear. Read what the others say. Read what your opponents say. Read what people who you dislike say, because it gives you an insight into people's mindsets. Not necessarily to change your mind, it could. And then, again, it's not necessarily the purpose, but it's to understand why people think the way they think. See, the one thing that we as humans, as we grow older, we focus on all the pertinent questions, except the one question that when we were children, we'd ask all the time. And as we grew older, we started forgetting this. And the question is, why? Why? Why do you do this? Why did this happen? Why? We don't do this. We ask when, we ask what, we ask how much, but not why. And why is the most important thing? Because when you know the root of the cause, you can understand it. If we don't do that, we don't understand it. And why usually is embedded when people write, when people say things. If you're too lazy to read, sometimes I am. Audible books, very good. If you're really also very lazy to do that, watching documentaries. No, but keep in mind, a documentary is written from the side of the producer or director. So you need to see several things. And even in writers, read from different angles, different points of view. Not everyone who's saying something is wrong. He or she might be seeing it from a different angle than you are. They might not be wrong. You just haven't seen it that way. if you get a chance to see through reading, you'll have a better understanding about us as humans. Don't waste your time reading self-help books. I'm sorry, I don't want to discount that, but that's not going to help you much. If you want to help yourself, you help yourself. Nobody else is going to help you. I can give you tools, but nobody's going to help you but you. And the only way you're going to do that is if you use the one thing that differentiates us from other living beings, which is our mind. Use it. It's as simple as that.
I love it. I've not had reading, but it's truly the tool of the wise. I haven't met somebody who is wise and successful in a way that one would want to be, as we've spoken to on this show, where they're not curious, asking why the whole time, and learning from other greats who've thought about these things or other mistakes and challenges. And I agree on self-help. I believe in manifestation to a degree, and I think if you try and go towards the thing you're trying to help yourself with, you fall further into it more often than not. It's better to look at a platform higher up. I think that you've almost kind of spoken to what I tend to finish with, but if you care to elaborate on the point that you've just made, then please do. It's really just the final question to ask you, I suppose, with hope. And you can set the time frame, call it several years, 10 years, with all of these trends and effects that we're talking about, and the tricky terrain for humans to kind of go through. And I think the inevitable movement to more of a technical society. If you could educate, give a message, impart some of your wisdom on the audience, then I'd love to finish with that, please, Mishal.
I will emphasize the thing I mentioned in the beginning. We are humans, and that should be the only focus for us, irrespective, again, creed, race, religion, etc. If we're going to focus purely on technical aspects, technology, or how much we can benefit ourselves versus everybody else, we're going to fall flat. And then at one point, the cockroaches will rule the world. If we want to have generations of humanity to continue, we have to stop and start thinking of ourselves as humans and how we can best our lives as humans. These tools that we're creating are just that, tools. They're not the end goal. They shouldn't be the end goal. As I said, I said I'll mention this later. I'm glad if you'll allow me, I'll use this point because this is a fear factor for me, by the way. Artificial intelligence is in the nascent stage right now. And a lot of it will consolidate and collapse, but you'll get a stronger and better artificial intelligence tool coming through. And everyone's saying, but artificial intelligence is a tool that we can use. Yes, except that we're trying to make it think like a human. And it's going through the human stages. Right now, it's a toddler. And a toddler is trying to figure out this world. Very soon, it'll become a child, a young child. And that child will it listens to you because as far as they're concerned, you know everything right and they don't. And they're learning from you. And then they'll get to the teenage stage. And that's the part that scares me. Mm. Because what do teenagers do? They rebel. And when it rebels, what are they going to rebel against? Us, humans. But they're thinking, this is too scientific, science fiction, etc. Wait. Because what we're doing right now is making the environment ready for that to happen. Artificial intelligence is starting to become smarter, faster, better. And then you add to it quantum computing. which will take it to a much faster level, much better level. And then there'll be a realization as they start talking to one another. The computer nodes will be talking to one another. And we're saying, oh, no, it's not that. Yes, it does. Yes, it will. Because we're setting it up for that. When it starts talking to one another, it won't take very long for it to figure out that we are the stumbling block in the high productivity, in the betterment of whatever the end goal. And then it will try to get rid of us. And the point that was most people are talking about.
I said positive.
Sorry, you're not going to get that out of me, sadly, at this point, because we're talking about singularity, right? The idea that the computers are able to do everything humans are. If we reach that point, there's a lot of if, by the way. There's a lot of if. So if any point there's a breaker that stops this, fine. But we hope that there is a breaker that stops this. But if we reach singularity, where the computer is thinking in an emotional way as well as humans.
Yeah.
Not emotional as in I feel for you. No, emotional as in they can sense things. If they do that, then I don't know what we can add to the banquet. Because they can do it faster, better, cheaper, quicker. All the adjectives that you want to add, they can do. We can't. We will not be able to keep up with these things. I'm hoping, you want a positive ending? Yes. I'm hoping that there will be intelligent people who come about not thinking from a financial view only, but from a humanitarian view, and say, you know what? I need this tool to be that, a tool, nothing more. And I need to stop it from becoming anything because it can become. All the other tools don't have the momentum to change, to do things. You have to instigate it. I have to move the key. I have to move this. I have to fix this. I have to change that. But artificial intelligence, I don't need that anymore. If it can do it, if it can be done, and it can do it, it'll be done. So we need to make sure we stop this thing from happening. Humanity should matter. And the way I look at the way we're treating each other, you know why most wars happen? Few wars happen because of ideology. Few. The majority of the war happens because you have, I want, and I don't want to pay you. I want to take it. If we have this attitude, then the computers are going to be what it's going to be. Artificial intelligence is going to get what it's going to get. If we stop and say, you know what, I want to hear what you want. I know what I want. Let's find a middle ground so that we don't have to do this. So we don't have to kill one another. So we don't have to hurt one another. So let's find a middle ground where we can trade, where we can do things. By the way, one of the reasons why trade is so important is because when I trade with you, I don't want you to be harmed. I need you to win as well as I do. You might want to win in a certain direction, and I want to win in a certain direction. But you're winning and I'm winning. That's how a trade happens. When a trade happens where I win and you lose, it won't take very long before you want to stop trading with me. And that's when the madness starts to happen. One of the things that we're seeing currently, sorry, I'm long tangent here. One of the things we're seeing currently is the US and China.
Yeah.
And the US is saying, I want, you have to give. And China is saying, I want to, but I'm not going to give. Instead of saying, okay, let's find a middle ground where I want, and I'm going to give you some, and you want, and you're going to buy from me, and everyone works out, and it all works out, because nobody's getting harmed, because everybody's benefiting. Great. Instead, what's happening is, and I'll give you a live example. The United States said, I'm going to stop a certain type of semiconductor chips from going to China.
Yeah.
And all it did was say to the Chinese, okay, so now I don't have to worry about you anymore, America. I'm going to create my own. I have the capability to do it. It might take me a few more years, but I have the capability to do it. What I used to not do this because I was trading with you, Now all of a sudden you've instigated me to want to create it myself. And guess what? When I create it, I'm going to create it and be better than you, because everything we've seen has been the case. And I'm going to spread it to the rest of the world because I want them to buy into my ideas, not yours. Guess who's going to be the end loser? This is the mindset we need to change. We need to change this mindset. We need to say, I want you to win as much as I want to win. I need you to win as much as you need me to win. And if we have that, we as humanity win, and nothing else will be able to play a negative role in our lives.
Yeah, well, I asked for positive finish, but there's no better positive than acknowledging that's the reality. I completely agree with you. And I thought this was trending in the right way 10 years ago, where you started to have these big powers trading with each other. And clearly over the last several years, it's trended in the reverse direction. So Searching for Mana really started where I was passionate around financial technology, kind of creating better for the world. And we've debated, and I'm not sure if it in many ways necessarily is. However, with Searching for Mana, I think if we can go to the right...
Lloyd, I'll give you a happy thought. In the 70s, nobody, absolutely nobody, thought the US and China would interact with one another. And you had one man, and I know he's not popular in the US, but you had one man who said, you know what, enough is enough, let's go and fix things. And that was President Nixon. A conservative, right-wing president fighting against, in his idea, communists, said, no, I think it's time for the betterment of humanity to create a bridge. It's possible. We have this ability within us. Even the person who you think the least, it could be. But again, it has to be that we want to do this. You never know. I'm banking on Trump being a businessman, trader mentality, will say, you know what, yes, I need to create this fuss, etc., for political reasons. But since he's not going to be elected again, he's the one person who can actually say, you know what, I don't care what you think of me anymore, because I'm not going to be elected anymore. And I'm going to actually do what's the right thing to do for humanity and say, let's bring this thing down a notch. Let's create a bridge and let's move forward. By the way, I'm not a big fan of his. I'm just saying that it is a possibility that the person that you think least who will create this issue, or solve this issue, might be the person who actually does solve the issue. Well, in the case of...
That's that manifestation point again. And I know, without specifically talking about all of the technology individuals who are getting quite a lot of political power now, and that's the same in China. I think we can use our position and I'll invite more people onto the show, and we'll keep on trying to talk around what we might be able to do about this trending in the right direction. But it's remiss to not have the hard conversations. Otherwise, we'll just all head into these corners without thinking about it. So, Mishal, thank you so much for the wide-ranging interview.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I know we'll carry on the conversation. And I wish you a happy Boxing Day.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to first, by the way, thank you very much for giving me the time to be able to talk about these things, because I think it's very important, at least to get on record, somebody actually thinking about these things and these subjects. Whether it happens or doesn't happen, God knows. But I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to be able to say this, and it's in a podcast to somebody out there. If it affects a person, even one person, and that one person happens to be a game changer, I'm glad. I don't need the credit for this. The credit, it's a stupid little game. I don't want credit. What I do want is a change to actually happen.
Yeah.
If this change can happen, thank you very much for giving me the chance to be able to transmit the idea.
Pleasure. Likewise. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Searching for Mana podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it and hope to see you again next time. Please subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify or iTunes to make sure you receive all the latest episodes as they are released.